Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Tea Time. This is based in the context of Accelerate Digital Now, the first event from T-Systems in 2022. In February 22, we want to inform you, we want to inspire you to get your IT roadmap right up and running. In the last episode, we've been talking with Dr. Thomas Ramge. We've been talking on a more general perspective about the evolution of IT and the information that it's all about experiments, flexibility, and scalability to face the challenges we see ahead. Today, I have with me Christian Lanzendorf. He's head of Competence Center of Financial Services, and we want to dig deeper into the questions that are relevant here. Christian, thanks for being with me today.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. It's my pleasure, and thank you for the intro, Florian.
And I've heard that you have a banking background as well. So it's not only that you're coming from the technology side, but you know the industry as well from the other side. And that's why I'd love to start with the first question. If you're looking back the last couple of years, I can imagine that many things changed due to the globalization issue, due to the pandemic as well. How would you describe how the industry is doing right now and which are the main challenges?
That's an interesting point, and I would like to start a couple of years earlier, maybe a couple of decades earlier, because I may not look the part, but I am 51, so I've seen that is not my first rodeo, so to speak. And you may put that question in the direction of Bill Gates, and because he would maybe be more qualified than to answer it than I am. Because he knew so much in the early 90s about how banking is going to develop in the next years to come. But all kidding aside, I've had some sort of watershed moment in the mid-1990s regarding the state of the industry then. First of all, I am speaking banking and financial services as mother tongue, and IT and digital transformation is my first foreign language, so to speak. So how come? I started my professional career some 25 plus years ago in the private banking and asset management industry here in Germany, which means literally I'm basically a stock market analyst turned IT guy. And when I was a young and aspiring banker, I've read Bill Gates' famous quote that strategically banking is relevant, but banks are not. And you can apply the same on insurances, credit card companies, and all the rest of the classic market participants. And I thought to myself, damn you, Bill Gates, what the hell are you talking about? And would you please mind your own business, because the product you're offering and its performance really is not something to write home about. We are talking Windows 3.11 in the corporate version in I think it was 1996. But to come to the point, there are two things to keep in mind here that stuck actually in my mind. One, that wasn't exactly my very exclusive opinion on the topic, but rather common sense in the banking community. And two, that quote stuck in my head and it festered there. And after a little while, the ramifications of it began to sink in. Germany was indeed going down the being overbanked, but inefficiently so slope, and for a longer while. Too many banks, too many branches, way too many employees, business models that weren't exactly or really successful. And after a while, it dawned on me that this really is the steel industry of the 21st century. It must be. And that there is a lot to do to help banking stay relevant in terms of competition as well as for the customers. And then fast forward to 2022, after almost 20 years directly associated in the or to the financial services industry on the business side, and another almost 10 years in digitization and business development in the IT arena. I'm living exactly in the world Mr. Gates described in the mid-90s. My complete professional career since then, I've been ever trying to prevent that from happening. And that is in itself a key question for us here in the industry line financial services at T-Systems. How can we help banks, insurance companies, and other financial services providers to stay relevant in this environment for their clients and for the competition, against the competition? What are the industry trends? What are the business needs? What are the customer pains? And what can we do to help?
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be a bit long-winded, but that being said, there are a couple of fundamental changes and pains, you may call it, disruptions as well, that
Mm-hmm.
have shaped the face of the industry in the last decades, but even more so after the financial crisis in 2007, 2008, and with the advent of fintechs and cloud computing on the rise.
Mm-hmm.
Extremely low to simply non-existing or no longer existing interest rates. They became the new normal after 2008, as you may well know. While we may have seen the turn of the tide on the market, on the interest market, due to Corona and some other economical factors, this is something that really put a huge dent in the business models of all financial services providers globally, in Europe and in Germany in special. Since it had effects on all positions of their balance sheets, the earnings expectations, the loan and mortgaging rates that fell bottomless, as well as life insurance contracts and their expectations. Then there is the fast-growing competition of and from new players such as fintechs, insurtechs, regtechs, xtechs, anytechs. Pick your choice. Yeah, GAFA, Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Apple. And others, and they are changing the rules of the very game as such, in that they utilize big data, for example. So low interest rates, more competition, eroding margins, high invests in processes led to a very high pressure on the balance sheets of the industry participants.
Mm-hmm.
And let's not forget, monolithic IT infrastructures that have to be modernized and transformed, how to cope with the trend of sourcing into cloud environments or shared services. How will that affect the grown and intertwined application landscape? For example, Deutsche Bank has an application landscape of, I think, 4,500 applications up and running. The IT security and the whole governance as such, how to cope with that. A lot of new technologies that have to be understood and that has to be adapted to. There is blockchain, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and it's just the upper layer. What to make of cyber defense, since there's no cloud without security, and then vice versa. And those are merely the technological changes. There is,
But
of
but
course,
then
more.
but then
Yeah.
just let me jump in here because I'm afraid that people are switching off, and not because of the really interesting points you're mentioning, but more like, okay, this industry is gone. We're beating a dead horse here. But still, obviously that's not the case. Otherwise, there would not be such a big effort, for example, via T systems to support and to like transform the finance industry. This is what we see on the other side. I'd love to go back a little line, since you were mentioning so many different aspects of changes, and you were like opening a pretty huge area of changes that we've had in the past. So to put it in a nutshell, I think it's fair enough to talk about a series of disruptions that this industry was like experiencing. Could we like have this as a baseline at the moment? And then the question from my side is, because we only got like half an hour in total for the moment, and we cannot go deeper into one of these like areas that you've been mentioning. But the question that's interesting for me right here is: the industry aware right now, or let's say most of the companies or responsibles, that there is a lot work to do, or are they more like, okay, let's keep that up and running as long as possible, and let's see what happens, because we don't feel like we are like in the pilot seat, right?
Yeah, well, that came along a bit long-winded, the answer. I know that, and that was only to point out from where we come. But all of that, all of those points that I have been pointing out, are points where we can help. When it comes to the transformational part, when it comes to the cloudification, when it comes to what I haven't been, because you cut me off, there are 2 points, which first of which is we have a raging war on talent, of talent. Yeah, uh, certainly not restricted to, but very prominent in the IT department and the customer. Customer expectation is, I want to see a wow effect. I want to see how you can stay relevant to me as a bank, as a credit card company, as a player in the financial market industry. And don't get me wrong, every player is keenly aware that he has to fundamentally change and remodel his business to stay relevant. So there are challenges, and those challenges are manifold, but all the players have the knowledge, and they have seen that they need to answer the question of how can this company survive in this market, earn money and grow and justify their right to play. To some extent or other, there are players that are lagging a bit, there are players that are leading a bit, but there is exactly none who wouldn't have heard the wake-up call. So that is the good side of it. I didn't want to drag that along the street just like roadkill. So it was just for you to get a better picture about how we see the market and how there are so many possibilities to really step in and step up to the plate and really help our customers, being it banks, insurance companies, whatever. So that is currently the state of the union, you may call it, of the banking industry. And there is a lot of positive things to say, because as the saying goes here in T-Systems, digitization takes place and at a very quick rate. And we as a company have the strategy that we are going cloud first. And we in the financial services industry line, we are absolutely and 200% sure that the industry sector, financial services in Germany, mostly in Germany, because we are here in sales Germany, that's the commercial part of the enterprise here, that the financial services sector in Germany is the most interesting sector when it comes to growth rates in the midterm and in the long term, because while there are a couple of leading companies, but very many players are lagging, we have a higher potential than, say, in other sectors that are much more digitized by now. And one interesting point that you've been asking here was the business model transformation. Yes, they are aware, and yes, that is already taking place. And it takes place for years, but in varying degrees. Sometimes it is like, it's a bit sad, but sometimes it is really like reinventing the wheel when a candidate is a bit lagging, and in other cases where organizations are, you may call it, more prone to agile projects or agile work, or already are a step ahead of the technological curve. It took more or less minor adjustments, and it's like that. The common denominator for all is that the business models will have to change, and here comes a point that you can't neglect here. The business models will have to change on every level of an organization. It doesn't suffice to simply utilize technology here. every transformation project has to be accompanied by a deep cultural uh, understanding and learning process of what that change might bring, and
Mm-hmm.
how to really be successful in implementing it inside of an organization, as well as in the customer facing, the supplier facing, and other stakeholder facing parts. So this whole process of business model transformation or business process optimization, or whatever you may call it, it's a governance issue as much as it is a technological one.
Mm-hmm.
And it is definitely something where the CEO of a company has to build the case personally to make it work. In other words, there is as much need for transformational coaching as
Mm-hmm.
there is for technological solutions, because you have to rethink and remodel the way of what you are doing, how you're doing it, and the core of it all, why you are doing it. So you could call it the classic Simon Sinek, but it's getting to the heart of it is answering the question of why are you doing that?
Yeah. Right.
Because if you can't explain that to yourself, you certainly can't explain it to your customers. And that is because the best technology will not solve the need of and for acceptance. And that is in short the business model transformation.
Well, what I've heard so far, there some good news in there indeed. Since in each transformational period, you can say as well, if everyone has to rethink his purpose to go further with Sinek, then there's no number one, right? And while you were saying that it's not only about the technology layer, but also about these many aspects you've mentioned, then there's a lot of space to grow, actually. Uh, and what's pretty interesting for me also is probably more based on the side of the governance issue that you've been mentioning, but still linked to technological questions, is the role of data sovereignty here. Since business models that have to change means also more collaboration, more like going into the value of data itself. And latest at that point, we need to probably rethink the question of data sovereignty as well, because we're coming from an age of siloed data, right? And I think this is not exclusively right for the finance industry, but also for many, many other industries. Let's have a look there. Is the finance industry ready to answer the question which role data sovereignty plays for them? Because from the technology perspective, I know that you can like serve the solutions which are relevant. We're talking about cloud, we're talking about the data sovereignty solutions that you're having, and also the business models that are really, really interesting for many industries, but as well for the finance industry. So would you say that this is something that is a prior topic to discuss further, or is this just a little part in the finance industry that has to be solved, but not a big issue?
No, data sovereignty. mm, It's I think in the gaming industry there is something called the killer application or such. But data sovereignty is the as of now the showstopper when it comes to cloudification in the financial services industry.
Okay.
That is, yeah, well, for sake of simplicity, let's call it a showstopper.
Mm-hmm.
But it is the most important part for us. Just one thing to bottle up the last part with the business transformation. We are in a premium position to solve the technological as well as the agile project challenges, since we have all the necessary units inside of T Systems for the coaching part in the transformational business. It would be the advisory from Dataconf, for
Mm-hmm.
example, and we would do the rest when it comes to infrastructure, digital solutions, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But one problem that has to be solved, absolutely true, is the matter of what about data sovereignty, and the question, is the finance industry in Germany opposed to the cloud? No, it is not. The low rate of cloudification in German banks is not due to being opposed to the cloud because they don't like it. That's absolutely not the case. Everybody, I wouldn't go that far as to say everybody loves the cloud, but it's not about liking or not liking. It is about what can sovereignty does for me, and what is data sovereignty. Maybe is it a game changer? And I would like to call it, or I would like to, everybody says the sovereign cloud in Germany. It is a game changer for the financial services industry. And I would like to put a small extension to that statement. The sovereign cloud has certainly the potential to become a game changer in the financial services industry when it comes to cloudification. In order to really unleash the full potential, there's a lot of explaining to do, as well as rationalizing, and even more so, the rationalizing the how. How are we going to do it, and why? There are a lot of regulatory obstacles here in the field, and the reason for relatively low cloud usage in Germany, or cloud transformation in the financial services industry, as compared to, say, the retail market, for example, it's not that banks don't like it. Most of the decision makers are keenly aware of the benefits that a cloud or the cloud could have on the business models. What we are talking about, obviously, is their biggest asset. It's customer data. So most naturally, they are very interested, but most naturally, they are very keen on holding back now, because while on the one hand, the regulator, let's say, applauds a move into the cloud, on the other hand, he is laying a very narrow framework of control and rules and regulations to adhere to. And some say those are not only handcuffs, those that are really shackles, what keeps the industry down. And but the partnership between T-Systems and Google Cloud is about to solve that very problem, and to help becoming a game changer. And we will do it in the first iteration, which is hopefully due in the third quarter of this year. The question is, how will we do it? And for the sake of simplification, and since we don't have all the time in the world here, today you have two major problems. Yeah, I know the clock's ticking, but you told me to prepare for a long run.
No,
so I have a lot
that's
to
all
say.
good. Now we're at the point where we say, okay, now
Okay.
that's becoming really like hands-on.
Yeah, there are two major problems when thinking about shifting workload and use cases into a cloud environment with a hyperscaler. Keeping the data and operational sovereignty. Data sovereignty hereby means keeping control over encryption and access. And mind you, this means physical access too. Operational sovereignty, on the other hand, means you have control over the provider's operations. And now let's do a quick reality check. The relevant cloud hyperscalers are all US American enterprises and are subject to the Cloud Act there. So good luck with that. But here's a joint venture of T-Systems and Google Cloud enters the stage. Our sovereign cloud project will solve these two challenges in its first iteration. T-Systems will provide the very real estate where the data center is placed, as well as all the regulatory necessary security measures, controls, and protocols, technological as well as physical. And furthermore, we will have the right to do code reviews and reject inquiries that adhere to the Cloud Act. We will steer the control set of the GCP for the user to make sure that the Google Cloud platform that he knows and uses as a sovereign cloud is just slightly reduced in its feature stack as not to violate GDPR or Schrems, and therefore is safe. And then, that way, Google Cloud can provide its powerful AI and machine learning stack to really unleash the power of data for our customers. And with all that, sovereign cloud is in an excellent position to become the game changer in the financial services industry when it comes to cloudification. But if it is that cool, why am I reducing it to it has the potential, it's pretty easy. We have had a couple of meetings and discussions with clients already. And what we have learned is the cloud, the sovereign cloud, and all that is tied to it is such a powerful tool that is often overwhelming for the customer
Mhm.
to really grasp
Mhm.
how to make the best start with it and how to best utilize it for their own needs and pain points. And what we are doing is um, we are always trying to boil it down and go into a co-creation workshop with a client to find
Mhm.
the best and the most dedicated use case, because it is a futile approach to try and go in with a generic use case. You have to really put the customer front, middle, and center of this challenge. You have to work on it and have to develop the fitting use case for him.
Mhm.
Um, and for the sake of simplification, again, what will it change? It scratches the regulatory challenges from the equation whether or not to use a cloud and leaves you with the quality decisions. That's it.
Mhm. Well, that's a lot,
About
I would
sovereignty.
say. So,
Yes,
um,
absolutely.
for me, it sounds a bit like the last decades, or let's stay with the last 10 years approximately. We've had these many fundamental changes and influences, but due to the fact that we've had no regulatory answer, like on the technology level, the industry could just watch without acting. And it looks like now, with the new cooperation with Google and the sovereign cloud, finally all these potential use cases people are facing actually can be put in practice, and beginning with 2020 already. So that's kind of the big news. I hope that many people will listen to this episode, because I can imagine that they're waiting desperately for such an opportunity to finally really accelerate their business again. So, are you experiencing already this situation that your customers, or like contacts in general, are asking you on a daily basis, "Hey, Christian, what's the state? Can we finally start?" Or are you already preparing with that? Since I can imagine that many people who are responsible in the industry are also facing like their daily challenges, and are not really aware about that this is finally happening.
Yes, yes, and no. This is not, it's not flying off the shelf.
Hmm.
It's not something where people stand in line like for the new iPhone.
Hmm.
Um, it's since it has its complexities and it's challenging, and it's like I said, it's sometimes overwhelming to really find a grasp as how to make good use of it. But what we see is that banks, more so than insurance companies, are very interested in discussions and next level information and what can we do, because um, it is all the same what kind of use case you are taking. It is either one where business critical data is in it, or it is customer data,
Hmm.
both of which, for good reason, is very highly protected by German rules and regulations.
Yeah.
Um, so everyone is very interested, and it's like racehorses standing in the box before the starting pistol goes off, and they're all very excited. But what we have to do is we have to fill in the third part. Um, like I described, T-Systems on one side is for the operational control and the real estate and where the data center stands, and that is our job more or less, and security and infrastructure, encryption keys. And on the other hand, you have the we call it the quality part, what you can do with the cloud, the Google Cloud Stack, the cloud platform stack, and what we need to make them really connect is the use case, the dedicated use case, and it all stands and falls with a dedicated use case. So yes, there is a high interest, and yes, we are very happy that we are now in the position to discuss the topic and bring a solution to the market, because that really is, I think it is a game changer for the banking industry. If you look abroad in the US, the cloudification rates of banks are vastly higher than they are here in Germany. In Switzerland, it is not such a problem to have banking as a service as a cloud subscription. And this will really speed up things here in Germany, and it will solve a problem like the demographic problem of mainframe, because the people are getting old. You are not finding COBOL programmers and coders at every street corner. It's not that they are in surplus stores available. You need young and fresh coders, and they mostly go to Google. So good luck with trying to really work with the Google Cloud Platform inside of your company, because all the knowledgeable people of GCP are either with T-Systems or with Google as of now. And so far, I think we are in a very, very good position to lead the market. And inside of T-Systems, the industry line financial services is really waving the banner, running, is the front runner of industry lines, because it is so important for us. It is not as important for the retail or logistics or chemistry bracket or health. On the other hand, would be comparable, but for us, it is the defining moment in the industry.
Great. I think we just had the perfect moment to talk about the issue, since the cooperation is a really new thing. It will roll out in 22. We have Accelerate Digital Now ahead in February 22, where we're going to go deeper into the opportunities and the nature of the sovereign cloud cooperation together with Google. And ladies and gentlemen, I think the call to action here was really, really clear. Just get ahead and get in contact with Christian and his team. Finally, it makes sense to define the use cases because the technology is there. So what you see in front of you is not just fantasy, it's real opportunities to change your business and to accelerate your business towards 2022. Christian, from my side, I'm really glad that you found the time to talk with me today. And I hope you guys enjoyed the whole episode of Tea Time. Hope to see you soon on February 22 for the first Accelerate Digital Now. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day. Bye. Gut. Ich drücke jetzt hier mal auf